All right, we'll try again. Not doing so good. Now it seems to be better. Okay, let's see if we can do something here. Sorry about that. So let's see what we can say. Um, so as we said, the Mishnah Berurah was saying here that it depends on how much you missed. If you don't really miss that much, and these are not the critical things, you can still fulfill your obligation. But on the other hand, he says, right, if you missed some critical things, which are crucial, to fulfilling your obligation, so there you don't really fulfill your obligation. So, it's like, it's very it's on the border, it's like not so clear what happens here when you miss like that. But Baruch Hashem, today we don't do it this way. We all read it ourselves, so we're not really depending on one the other. So we really don't have this problem. It's actually a good thing in a sense. So what is the Mishnah Berurah saying here? "ותלוי בזה אם לא גמר המברך עדיין את הברכה, חוזרים ומסובים ומברכים בעצמם ממקום שפסקו." So he says, right, that as we said, that if they miss some of the parts, they can also read it themselves, to make it up, and then catch up to him and go on from there. But if you already finished the blessing, and now, um, and his intention now is to, right, to hear, then you would have to, right, the person who's with him there would have to go back to the beginning of the blessing and start from there. Because since they missed something in the middle, it's like they didn't say it at all. וכל זה, דווקא אם על ידי השיחה שבאמצע לא שמעו ודילגו דברים שמקרא הברכה. So in other words, basically it gets complicated, in this situation where you're not really sure what you heard. So there can be a lot of different variations on this. So the best thing is not to bring yourself to this situation. How do you avoid it? Number one, don't talk during the Birkat Hamazon. That's one thing, right? And number two, we call it, read it yourself, and don't rely on somebody else. This way, you won't have this problem at all. Also, when you're reading it by yourself, you won't be talking. You can't do both at the same time, right? So that also makes it better. Okay, so I guess we'll move on. See what else we can do here. So now he gets to this point, right? That this whole issue that we just discussed here, how to avoid these problems. So let's see what he says here. The Bet Yosef tour. So he says like this, right? כתוב בשיבול הלקט. It says in his book, בשם רבנו אביגדור, name of this rabbi, כל אחד מהמסובין חייב לומר בלחש אם המברך כל ברכה וברכה. So he says, as we said, right, the best thing to do is that each person there who's there with him, with the guy who's blessing, he should also, say all the Birkat Hamazon himself as well. Like just whisper it. Even the conclusion of the blessing. So as we said, right, this avoids all the problems, because you're reading it yourself. So you don't really need the other guy. וכן יש ללמוד ממה שכתב ראש בתשובה. Also, there's a Rosh in Tshuva there, he writes there, והביאו רבנו בסימן נ"ט, and the two brought in this chapter 59, וזה לשונו, this is what it says, ברכת יוצר בערבית אנו אומרים עם שץ. So right, this is exactly what I spoke to you guys about, which was regarding the prayers. That when we read the prayers, arvit, let's say, and we say it together with the shliach tzibur, with the chazan, בנחת, we say it slowly, כי אין אדם יכול לכוון לתדיר משליח ציבור בשתיקה. So why is that? Because not everybody has this power, to concentrate so well to be full obligation with somebody else who's saying it, because you have to concentrate on everything that he says. And people get, distracted from that. גם אם היה מכוון לדברי שליח ציבור, and even if he was following everything, and had the right intention, ובאמצע הברכה היה פונה לדברים אחרים. But in the middle of the blessing, right, he got diverted, and got distracted to do something else or to think about something else. הרי see the הכוונה, so he did lose his concentration, כי הפסיקה באמצעיתה, because he stopped in the middle. אבל כשאדם קורא בפיו, but when a person is reading his own mouth, אף אם קורא מקצתה, even if he's reading only a little bit, בלא כוונה, without any concentration, יצא ידי חובה. עד כאן, he still fulfills obligation, because he's reading it himself. So in other words, what he's saying is like this: when you read it yourself and you lose concentration, you're still okay. But the problem is when you're not reading it yourself and you're depending on somebody else, and if you lose your concentration there, then it's really not okay at all. So it's more advantageous for everyone just to read it himself, because of this problem. This is what we spoke about a few days ago as well. We mentioned this issue. וזה לשון אורחות חיים. So it says in אורחות חיים, כתב רבינו פרץ, right, brings this rabbi רבינו פרץ, שיש לכל אחד לברך ברכת המזון. He also says same thing, right? Everybody should do ברכת המזון by himself. Avoid all these problems, right? אף כשהם זימנו לפי שאין יכולים, even if they did זימון. Because he says that because they're not able to concentrate like that, to be fixated so much like that. Kol teva v'teva mipnei mevarech, to concentrate on every word that the person says, the one who's blessing. Kol makom lo yatchil levarech ad shetichle birkat hazan hakol. But he says, don't start to bless until he finishes the first blessing, hazan hakol. אבל הרב לא היה מברך בלחש. But he says the Ram wouldn't do this, right? He didn't bless himself, whisper it like this. עד כאן שלנו, מה שכתב לא יתחיל לברך עד שתכלה ברכת הזן, and that what he says, right? Don't begin to bless until he finishes the first blessing, the chazan, the host. היינו משום דסבר דהלכתה כרב ששת, because he holds like the halacha like Rab Sheshet, דאמר, the ברכת הזן, Miklad Berkat Zimun, that Hazan is really part of the Zimun, the first blessing. He Wolfi Perush Rashi, according to Rashi, Besiman Resh Itbaer Sheyesh Poskim Kerab Nachman. he says we're going to explain that some people paskin like Rabbi Nachman, the Amar shena bichal birkat zimun, that it's not a part of the zimun. This is the first blessing. Udivrehem en tzarich lamtin. So according to them, you don't have to really wait. Ela kivan she'amar baruch she'achal mishalo. Once he answers the zimun, וכולי, יתחיל לפירוש ולפירוש התוספות should start already. And according to the Tosfot, it says, והראש and the Rosh, after דברי רב ששת, even according to רב ששת, יתחיל מיד, should start right away, ולעניין הלכה נראה לנהוג כדברי רבנו פרץ. So he says, the halacha is that we should do like רבנו פרץ, בשיבולי הלקט. So what does that mean? That everybody should whisper, right, the Birkat HaMazon by himself. Do it yourself. And don't rely on somebody else, because otherwise you're going to get into trouble. For several reasons that we mentioned, right? One is that he may come to talk, and then he's going to have a problem there. And the other thing is he may come to get distracted, and lose his focus. So either way, right, it's going to be a problem. So therefore, if you do it yourself, right, then you're not going to have these problems. You'll fulfill your obligation either way. Right? Like the Americans say, if you want something right, do it yourself. That's what we're saying. Right? Okay, that's the main idea here. Okay, good. So let's do Shulchan Aruch. So says Shulchan Aruch, right? Something, this is important. נכון הדבר שכל אחד מהמסובין יאמר בלחש עם המברך כל ברכה וברכה. So he says the proper thing to do, as we said, is that each person who's dining on the table there should whisper the Birkat Hamazon himself also, Um, so, as we said, right, that makes him like self-sufficient. So you don't need to worry about what this guy's doing or what that guy's doing. You're doing it yourself, that's good enough, That's good. You're good. Afilu Chatimot, it says even the conclusion of the blessing, same thing. Say it yourself. So says the Rama, "V'yaktim l'sayem k'tzat kodem ambarech." So he says also another thing, which is mentioned in the poskim, is that you should try to finish a little bit faster than the one who's blessing. In other words, go a little bit ahead of him. Why is that? Kadesh yani amen. In order they should be able to answer amen to these blessings, right? So the truth is, that this amen business, right? It's like Ashkenazi custom, but we don't really do this. We don't answer amen in the middle of the blessings. אין נותנים כוס של ברכת ברכה אלא ליטול עין. So another thing he says, right, the Rama, is that you should give, if you're giving something to somebody, right, to make the Birkat Hamazon, it should be somebody who's tov ayin. What is tov ayin? That means he has a good eye. What does that mean? That he's got a good he's a kind person, right? He wants the benefit of everybody. He seeks out the welfare of everybody. Kind person. He sees everything positive in a positive light, as opposed to a person who's very like judgmental. Judges everybody. Very harsh, very crude. And so a person like that, you don't want to give it to him. Why? Because he's too judgmental, so the blessing won't come from him. It's not going to work. Okay, great. So maybe we can do one more. We'll call it a night, right? It was a stormy night tonight. It's very stormy. Oh my God. All kinds of things going on tonight. Okay. So let's try one more. This was Zain. Okay, I think there's one more Zain here also. Something else here. This one. So it says over here, it's just very short. So Perk Elu Nemarin Amar Rav Yoshua ben Levi En Notrin Kos Shel Bracha. Right, he's talking about this, right? So this is the Gemara. Lamed Chet Amud Bet. We only give the blessing of the cup to somebody who has a good eye, right? He's got a good eye, right? The positive person, right? Positive thinker, not too judgmental. We don't want guys like that. So why is that? Because when he has a good eye, the blessing can come through him, to everybody. But if he's like very stingy, and very judgmental, a person like this, what's gonna come from him, right? All he's gonna do is, put you down. It's not gonna not gonna give you anything good. So you don't want that. Okay, so there's one more piece here, chet, right? Let's see what we got. So it says that כתוב עוד באורחות חיים, says in אורחות חיים, לעניין לשאול בברכת המזון בפני כבוד, פני יראה, דינה כתפילה, right? So look what it says, right? What about this issue, right? If somebody, when you're saying ברכת המזון, right? Somebody comes and, gives you greeting, right? Or you give them greeting. So what's the rule? Are you allowed to interfere, interrupt, right? And give greeting or return greeting to somebody during the Birkat Hamazon? So it says it's like tefillah. So what does that mean? It's like tefillah. It's like amidah, That means that you cannot interrupt there, right? To give anybody greetings or return greetings. Forget about that. No chance, right? As opposed to Kriyat Shema, right? Over there is some leeway there, to give greetings and return greetings. But here in the Birkat Hamazon, it's like tefillah. That means it's like amidah. Just like in Amidah, you're not allowed to talk. Here also the same thing. Okay, so then there's another piece here. Amar Avaseh ein merachin al kos shel puranut. Right, so we already said this, right? This means that we shouldn't bless, right, with the zugot, with the even numbers. Gam zeh sham v'kvar katavti b'siman kufayin. So it says we already wrote this, right, in chapter 170. She'en devar zeh noheg l'reina. Now we're not particular about this, right? About the even numbers and odd numbers. We don't care about that today. So therefore, don't worry about that, right? Let it slide. ולא היה צריך רבנו לכתבו, אלא שימשך אחרי דברי התלמוד. So he says, really, the truth is, he says the Torah didn't need to write this. Why is that? Because it's not relevant in our times. But he says the reason he wrote it is because he wanted to go according to the Talmud. In other words, he wants to codify the Talmud, right? Just like the Rambam did. Oh, he wants to be a Rambam. Rambam number 2. Okay, that's good. Why not? So let's see, right, the Shulchan Aruch, and we're done. Okay. See what we got. So says Shulchan Aruch, לעניין לשאול בברכת המזון מפני היראה או מפני הכבוד, יש מי שאומר שדינה כתפילה. Right, so regarding this, right, in other words, making greetings, during the Birkat Hamazon, so it says it's just like tefillah, just like the Amidah. So therefore, you're not allowed to interrupt for that. Don't say hello, don't say goodbye, don't say how are you, right? Don't answer them, I'm good, I'm doing fine. Forget about that. Okay, so I guess we'll stop there, Brother Hashem. Looks like we weathered the storm somewhat, huh? We did not too bad, right? Not too bad for a stormy night. So anyway, right? Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Don't forget, there's a fast day tomorrow. The fast starts about 1 hour before sunrise, and it ends about 20 minutes after sunset.
Okay.
So before that, you can eat. Before, like 1 hour before sunrise, if you wake up early, but you have to make a condition. What does that mean? You have to think in your head, yeah, like if I wake up, early, I'm going to eat and drink if I want to, whatever. This way, you can, when you go to sleep, right, you can wake up and still eat and drink before the dawn. Okay, so thanks for coming. So, Bezrat Hashem, you should have a Shabbat Shalom. Have an easy fast, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless.
Thank you so much. Shabbat
All the
shalom.
best. Chazak Baruch.